Hello, everyone. This is Pedro Romero coming at you guys with a brand new interview. I have here with me two members of the XSET Female Valorant team. They are Carolyn ArtstaR Noquez. I'm not sure if I'm butchering your last name,
No,
but
that's right.
and Katherine Starriebun, who contributed to the team's eventual fourth place finish at the VCT Game Changers 3 tournament. Prior to that, they were a part of Nothing to Lose, which distinguished themselves as one of the best independent female Valorant teams in North America. Now, they hope to become the absolute best team in North America and, who knows, maybe the entire world as well for the 2022 season. And so, first of all, Starry Bun, thank you so much for taking the time to doing this interview. I really appreciate it. I just like to start off with the simple old question: how are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. We just got done with practice and it went really well today, so really excited for the future of the team.
Yeah, my day was good as well, like Lynnie said. And we're excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
I understand that most of you guys, like both of you guys, usually do interviews during like tournaments, and so I'd like to know if this is like your first like feature interview with no tournaments like attached. Like, is this like your first time doing this sort of interview?
For me, not really. I'm pretty experienced with interviews, just from my previous experience on Dignitas. We had a lot of media training and all that stuff, so we're constantly in the spotlight, constantly getting asked questions, so I'm pretty used to it. I think Kathy is too.
Yeah, definitely been doing most of the interviews for the team, so I'm kind of getting used to everything.
Right, and well, what with the new year coming in and you guys like just finishing 2021. I'd like to know how has been like your off season? How has been like the holiday season in general? Like, what have you done within like the break before the start of the new year?
Kathy, you wanna start?
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I mean, of course, it's very important to take a break so we can all like take a step back and take a good breather away from competing so we can come back more refreshed. And now that we are back, we are kind of scrimming and practicing more than ever because we're even more motivated now that the new year started. I think we're very, very excited to compete this year and show that we can be better than we were last year.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think, having player breaks is key to performing well when the season starts. I think everybody's big focus when we say, like, "Okay, we're taking a break," is, like, focus on your mental health because that's, like, the most important thing is making sure that you're taking care of yourself, so when you feel good, you play good.
So there's a particular focus within self reflection, but was there any like what exactly did you guys do within that sort of department, like self reflection? Like, how did you like reset yourselves mentally outside of the game? Because playing in the game for so long from this past year must have taken a heavy toll for each of you guys.
I think for me personally, the biggest thing mentally is, because I spend so much time practicing and being with my team or playing ranked. I don't spend a lot of time with my family, and I have a very big family, and we're very close knit. So for me, taking a player break means spending time with my family and catching up with everybody and seeing all my brothers and sisters who live far away, making sure we have that close contact still. Um, but also, you know, just taking care of my body, my mind, my soul, my eating habits, all those kind of things. I think those are really important things that people neglect, um, when they talk about, how excited they are to grind. It's like, yeah, but are you taking care of yourself before you're, focusing so hard on the game? Because it's really easy to neglect yourself when you're grinding.
Yeah, I like to add on to what Lenny said. Self care is like very important. So during the break, I kind of like to step back from the game. I don't grind rank as hard because I like to kind of stop playing the game for a little bit and reset everything and make sure that I'm spending time on myself and my hobbies to make sure I'm not getting too overwhelmed, because obviously practicing and constantly competing can take a very heavy mental toll. So it's really good to take a step back from playing the game itself and just focusing on other hobbies and regaining yourself so that you can go back into the game really refreshed.
Can you say like exactly what hobbies you guys did?
For me personally, I like to read. So I just get really into reading and I put on like a face mask. I lay in my bed, or I'll watch like TV shows, or I'll cook more and I'll bake more. Just little things like that.
Yeah, those similar hobbies. I enjoy reading. My name's ArtstaR. I love art. So I sometimes will dabble back into painting and sketching. Those are things that I love to do. Just like isolating sometimes, like if I'm not with my family, I'll just isolate myself from the world entirely and just, be in my own little bubble in my own zone and just do something that I love to do.
I gotta ask, what sort of art style are you particularly focused on?
I don't have a specific art style. I'm not like the greatest artist. It's definitely more of like a way for me to just focus on something. And like once I start a project, I'm so heavily focused on that. So, sometimes I like to draw, like I'll try to do landscaping, maybe follow a Bob Ross tutorial, like stuff like that. Or I'll draw like cute little chibi characters and stuff like that. But it's definitely not something that I do professionally whatsoever, but it's fun for me to take that escape.
Right, and for you, Starriebun, I gotta ask, you read with the mask on? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I just put on like those Korean skincare face masks, and then
Okay,
I just
okay.
lay on my bed and I just read.
Okay. The way you described it made me think that you were reading like with the face mask on, and so I was just kind of confused.
No.
Um. Also, like, you watch shows. Like, you got any show recommendations that you can like give out to viewers?
I just started on Hawkeye, and so
Mm.
far it's been good, and I've been re-binging Grey's Anatomy a lot. So those are like my two right now.
Grey's Anatomy. I didn't. I mean, that show's way too long for me to watch. Like,
But it's so good.
um, you got any recommendations, ArtstaR?
um I just started rewatching The 100 on Netflix. I never finished it, so I've been watching that. I really want to watch the new season of Demon Slayer because I've been hearing a lot of really
Mm.
good things about it, and I have not started it yet. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably end up doing that sometime this week.
I mean, I've only watched one episode of Demon Slayer, and so like of the new content, I didn't watch.
Hmm.
I didn't watch like the first part of the second season because that's basically a rehash of the Mugen Train movie. So like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, as far as Demon Slayer, I only know the very beginning and that's it. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Did you watch the movie in theaters,
I
or did you?
let's just say I sell the high seas to watch that movie. You don't get it? You don't get it, Storybun?
No,
Well, let's
I don't
just.
think she does.
She doesn't know. Well, I'll leave you to figure that out by browsing Google. So let's just leave it at that. Um, well, yeah, like you guys obviously reloaded for next season, and so amidst the off season, the game experienced swirling changes with respect to the addition of new agents and a different meta. And so, as we're heading into the middle part of January, what do you think of the changes made to the game?
The changes being like the new character and the new map changes.
Yeah, all of it.
All of it. I think the map changes for at least Breeze are really good. We haven't had that much playtime on Bind yet, or me personally, I haven't. So I don't really have like that big of an opinion of that. But obviously, it changes a lot of the meta around it because we're so used to like having the double box on Bind for the one way, and now that it's gone, and just having the Breeze changes were really good. I felt it was more comfortable to play Breeze with those changes, and with the addition of Neon. I don't think we'll see too much of her in pro play, only because for me personally, I don't think there's an agent that she would be able to replace that she would have such a huge impact on. Because she's kind of like a W key agent, and I feel she's more suited for ranked than she is in pro play.
Yeah, I agree. I think the changes, just adding on to the changes about Breeze, I think it makes, at least for the B site, it makes it easier to play around the site more and use your environment around you to, help capitalize on multi-frags. Whereas before, I think it was definitely a little bit more difficult because, with utility, most teams have Sovas and Skies, so you have a dog, a drone, a dart, and flashes all to indicate where you are in the site. But now you have a little bit more playroom, different boxes to play around, the whole back wall to play around. So it's a little bit harder for teams to clear. I love it because I can play more like a rat. So I think those changes are nice on the B site. However, the Aries, I'm not too sure about those changes. I'm hoping Riot will kind of see that it's definitely being abused. It changes the game a lot more than I think people realize because, like, economy wise, it's way cheaper to buy, and like, it's just insane. Like, people could just, like, more teams I'm noticing are force buying on second round because of the Aries, and I think that changes the game entirely. Like, eco rounds are no longer rounds where, you know, you have more potential to win eco rounds because of the Aries. So I think that's something that maybe Riot will reflect on and see that it's definitely changed the game a lot.
Do you have any words up as to the inclusion of Chamber, Starriebun? Because you already gave your thoughts on Neon, so what about Chamber?
Me personally, I really like Chamber. I think he helps the whole economy situation, and his trips being used and being able to kind of be placed universally around the map kind of gives Sentinels more freedom. Instead of being like a dedicated site holder, Chambers kind of has more flexibility to go around the map a little more. And also, I think just if you're really good with the sheriff and stuff and the op, I think using Chamber is so beneficial because you don't have to buy a gun. You could just buy the bullets for his sheriff, or if you have your ult, you could just use your op instead and save your team a lot of money for the next rounds.
How often do you think ArtstaR that we're going to see Chamber and Neon into the pro game for next season?
I think Chamber you'll see a lot more often than Neon, just because, like Kathy said, I think it's as a Sentinel main myself, I think it's a lot easier to play Chamber because you can, like she said, place your traps all over the map. It's really easy to rotate fast, and you can kind of, like, if you make an aggressive play towards the B bomb site and place an aggressive trap, you can easily just gamble stack towards a different site. Because you have that aggressive trap to know if they regroup towards the B side or something like that. So I think it gives like teams a lot of freedom to make more plays together and to rotate faster, and that's why I think Chamber might be played more. Whereas, like Kathy mentioned, or sorry, Starriebun mentioned that Neon is definitely like a W key agent, and I will say that it is hard to like peek into a Neon that's sliding in your face compared to like a Jet that just dashes in. It's definitely a little bit more difficult shooting at her. Also, her ult is really strong. But I still think that Jet is just a stronger duelist. If you really need someone to create space, I still think Jet is the better option.
Right, and it was amidst these changes that you guys have already started to ramp up things at the end of last year and heading into this year. Besides playing in tournaments, you guys also attended an in-person LAN, which is Philadelphia, and so for both of you guys, what was it like to play in the LAN after so long, just playing remote amidst the VCT?
I think that playing on LAN was a very good and interesting experience. It's a lot different than just playing at home in your own room. You're definitely a little bit out of your comfort zone, and there is a lot going on in your background. So really, really important for you to focus into like what's happening in your game. But LAN was really fun. It was a really good experience for all of us, especially because we are trying to prepare for the VCT LAN at the end of the year. But yeah, definitely a cool experience.
Yeah, I was really excited to play on LAN because it was a really long time, I think, since anyone played on LAN. Also, just Fragadelphia in general has like such a special place in my heart because of Counter-Strike Fragadelphia. So it's really exciting to see some old faces that I saw back in the CS days at Fragadelphia playing Valorant. So that was really nice.
What were those like familiar faces? Can you disclose on that?
So Aloe or Allie, who's also she's an admin for NSG. I love seeing her. I actually got to see Sasquatch or Steve. He showed up actually the last day. He was adminning the tournament in Fullerton, but he flew out and stopped by to see how everything was going at Frag. So when I ran in the last day, I was like, "Oh my god, how are you?" Because it's been so long since I've seen him. I was really looking forward to see NVS, but he unfortunately was also adminning the tournament in Fullerton instead, so I didn't get to see him. But and then of course, like, you know, OGs that played Counter-Strike, so it was fun.
What do you make of the gradual emergence of in-person LANs as the pandemic is heading into like its second or third year? And either one of you can answer this question.
I like that there are going to be more LANs, but my only worry is I hope that these LANs take the proper precautions for COVID, because I feel like every year COVID kind of has a new variation to it, and it just gets a little bit dangerous to go out and play. And some people I feel like have been holed up in their room for so long that they would kind of do anything to go to a LAN. And I think that LAN centers, as good as hosting a LAN is, need to take the proper precautions and set good boundaries to protect the players at their facilities and stuff.
See, Cloud9 White mentioned how helpful it is for female teams to participate in LANs such as Philadelphia, given that it benefits them for many reasons, such as like expanding their game beyond the Game Changers circuit and facing tougher competition. And so, for you guys to compete in this LAN, which I believe is the first time ever under the XSET Female banner, did you feel you were able to experience such benefits for competing in such a LAN?
Yeah, I definitely think that playing at LAN against mixed teams, co-ed teams, female teams, literally anyone, I think it's just good experience in general, especially for players who have never played in a LAN setting, or for players who want to compete, because it's a good way to. I feel like it's also a good way to start because, you know, you have like a smaller audience and a smaller little stage, so you get a little feel for that. Because definitely going to like an international female tournament where you're on a big stage and there's like hundreds of people watching can definitely be overwhelming for like a rookie, you know? So I think it's like really good to experience like the smaller settings and kind of get a feel for things, and, you know, um, just spending time in general as a team, like team bonding is definitely like a really big thing for us too. But yeah, I definitely think playing against like different teams and um, sorry, I had a brain fire. Playing against different teams and better teams, you can never not benefit from that. So
There's a stigma that among female teams that should like they compete in these type of LANs, they'll get destroyed. And so, like, what do you make of that stigma? Do you feel as if that sort of stigma is decreasing as more female teams are competing in mixed LANs?
Yes and no. I feel like that stigma will always kind of be around, especially like for women's teams. I think that there's a lot of pressure definitely in the community that like women's teams are set to fail. You know, like they're not as good as male teams. And I think because of that stigma happening, uh like women teams are like scared to compete because they're afraid that if they lose, then people are going to be like, "Oh yeah, they're a horrible team." But it's like you can't be afraid to lose, because when you lose, you learn a lot more from those games that you lose than when you win. Like it teaches you a lot more about what you're lacking and what kind of level that you're playing at right now. Like playing in these tournaments can only be like beneficial. Like even if you get like absolutely demolished, you learn so much from it, and it helps you become a better team and a better player.
Yeah, I think the important thing is knowing that like everybody starts somewhere, you know? Like Kobe Bryant didn't like win every single game he ever played, you know? Like when he first started, it's just that doesn't really happen. You have wins and you have losses, but the only way that you ever grow as a team or as an individual is if you put yourself in challenging positions.
Right. Competing in that land was a fitting like end to the 2021 season, because like if you look at the team's like progression or your personal progression from this point last year, obviously many things happened within that specific time period. And so looking back into the 2021 season as a whole, how would you guys like make of that?
Um, I can't believe we made it a whole year with COVID and everything. No, but seriously, as a team, it's been really exciting. And just looking back at how much we have grown individually and as a team, and I think like beginning is always a little rough when you're sorry, my dog's barking. The beginning's always a little rough when you're trying to figure out, you know, like I barely started playing Valorant when Kathy reached out to me about the team and everything. So I was a little nervous because I didn't even know what role I wanted to play. I just knew that in Counter-Strike I loved to lurk. So then I was like, oh, you know, Senti's kind of the similar situation. I can kind of do that with a Sentinel. And then I realized that like, wow, I'm still really good at what I do. So it was definitely like a challenge. We had to do several role swaps and figure out where everybody's comfortable and what we can do with, you know, where everyone's strengths and weaknesses lie. And figuring that out as a team is definitely difficult. And that's why we tried to stick together as long as we could so we can figure that out all together. So
It's definitely amazing to see how much has changed over the year, considering like if you look at our first VCT together as a team, which was the second VCT, we placed 8th, and then in the third VCT we placed 4th. And it was like we could see that huge improvement, and teams that we were losing against, we won against them in like the end of the year tournaments. Like we saw how much we've improved as a team, and it was really amazing to see that. And like Lynnie said, like I think for the past year we were just kind of trying to put the puzzle pieces together, and this year we're trying to kind of set the pieces and just look at everything as a whole and move forward.
Yeah, like within the middle part of the year, the team that was formerly known as Nothing to Lose, which eventually became XSET Female, was founded, and ArtstaR already provided her perspective as to how she met with you, Starriebun, and so I'd like to know like how were you able to like discover ArtstaR and bring her into the team?
When we were first forming the team, we looked at all the players in the scene that we could potentially get and who already isn't on a team. And I remember seeing ArtstaR's looking for team tweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love ArtstaR. I looked up to her when she played Counter Strike, and I was like, we definitely have to reach out to her and try to grab her. So we DM'd her, and she obviously said yes to joining our team. And after that, we just held tryouts, and we just kind of took everybody's uh, tweets for like looking for team tweets, and we kind of put together a list of people that we thought were going to be really good fit, and we just tried them all out, and here we are today.
Yeah, and from there, obviously you mentioned that the team performed and finished eighth in the second Game Changers event, and so like compare that to when you guys started off. It's like a massive improvement or a massive like ascension amidst the GC circuit, and so like were either of you guys like surprised for how well you guys did at the beginning of of Nothing to Lose's existence?
Um,
I wouldn't say surprise.
yeah, I wouldn't say surprised. I think we were all really excited to play together. We were really excited. I think we had a lot of confidence in each other and everything in the beginning, and so it's almost like we had a fire from the start. You know, everyone wanted to win so badly. Everyone wanted to compete and just grind and work really hard together. And obviously, we still have that in us. I think everybody, especially like Kathy mentioned, it's the new year and everything. Like I think we're more excited than we even were last year. So when we first placed eighth, it was definitely like honestly, we were actually disappointed because we wanted more than that. So, you know, we definitely looked back and reflected on a lot of the mistakes that we made. And I think that's why the next event we ended up getting fourth together is because we really took in everything that we did wrong and tried to fix those mistakes. And it showed in the next tournament. And so we're hoping that all the hard work that we're putting in right now is definitely going to show for the next Game Changers.
And between the second and the third Game Changers, you guys were approached by XSET, an organization that has been making considerable noise, especially within the Valorant scene. They fielded a pretty respectable men's team, which competed fairly well in NA. And so, like, within that subject, like, how were you guys, like, approached by XSET, like, after GC2?
So XSET actually made a tweet saying that they were going to be looking in NA for a Valorant team. And at the time, of course, we were looking for an org. So I had everyone I knew tag us in that post, and I was tagging us in that post. And they actually reached out to me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, like we've had our eye on you. Let's have a talk." And that's kind of how it all started.
And yeah, like under that banner, you guys did well. Well, you guys improved in GC3, finishing in fourth. And so, within those two Game Changers events that you guys participated, like, what was like your favorite moment amidst those games? Like, what would you highlight as like your best moment in those tournaments?
Oh, it's hard. That tournament was honestly like probably
Which
so
one?
far the most.
Which one?
It's the Game Changers we placed fourth in was probably the most exciting Game Changers event so far in my career with the team. I think because like we got signed right after, so we got that sign buff, and like we went in like super hyped. Everybody was so excited, and we really the biggest thing was we really wanted to make XSET proud. Like we really wanted to show them like, listen, you made a good decision signing us. Like no other org wanted to take this chance on us. Like we're gonna do everything we can to prove to you guys and show you guys that like we are hungry to win. And so it was the same thing like the Game Changers when we placed eighth. We were still disappointed with fourth because we wanted more. We were like super hungry that tournament. But then at the same time, we're like, all right, like you know, we showed them what we got, and now that we have the resources and the backing from XSET, like it's only a matter of time. It's inevitable that we get first.
Yeah, like Lynnie said, I don't think I have like a very favorite moment. I think definitely that Game Changers, like the third one, definitely has like a place in my heart only because like we had just gotten signed and we really wanted to show that we had something to prove. Like we wanted to show everyone that we're kind of sleeping on us, that like we are here to play and we are a top team. And I think we were able to prove that. And we were, like Lynnie said, we were very disappointed that we got fourth because we felt like we definitely could have placed like number one if we just tried a little bit harder. But it was definitely like a good bonding moment for the team. Like we realized like how much we love and trust each other and how hungry we are for the number one spot.
Yeah, there was certainly a lot of enthusiasm from how you guys performed in GC3, but nevertheless, unfortunately, you guys weren't able to take it home at the very end. And so, what did you feel prohibited you guys from like going further and like and taking home the trophy?
I think you know, obviously like we went back and VOD reviewed together as a team and saw the mistakes that we made. Um So we definitely saw the mistakes that we made during like practices and stuff. We're starting to people were starting to like sorry, what's the word? How do you say this? Like take advantage of the fact that we were making those mistakes. They would capitalize basically on the micro mistakes that we weren't fixing in practice. That's what I'm trying to say.
Like,
So,
like
you know,
relish on those mistakes? Or something like
what do you No, they would how do you say it? There's like
There was just like little mistakes that
Yeah.
would kind of add up to losses
Mhm.
in the
that?
round.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I think teams were picking up on those little mistakes that
Yeah.
we didn't completely fix during practice. And because those little mistakes, it kind of snowballs into bigger mistakes and rounds being
Exactly.
lost.
Yeah, so it'd be things like over peaking or overextending for a kill, being greedy for an extra kill, you know, things like that. The word I'm looking for is punish. So like teams would punish us for making small mistakes that we weren't fixing during practices. So when we went back and watched the VOD, we're like, okay, you know, these are things that like against, you know, I don't want to say lesser teams, but against like weaker teams, like overextending is fine. You know, you'll get those kills and those frags, but against a team that's more coordinated, you want to make sure that you have the same, if not better, coordination than them. So we definitely went back, watched the VODs, and discussed that together.
And with that sort of experience accumulated from GC 2 and 3, you guys are now heading into 2022 with expectations of continuing with that success and even surpassing that. And so, like, what with the 2022 season rolling around and the new Game Changers schedule announced like a few weeks before that, like, what do you think of the current state of the GC circuit, as in like how do you view the teams participating, like where do you stand among those teams?
For the new GC circuit, I'm very excited. I'm very excited for more women's teams to be participating too, just because it makes games to be more fun. And as of where we stand amongst women teams, I mean, we gotta stay confident. I think we're like the top team out there, and we will continue to be. And I think we are very, very eager to prove ourselves and show everyone that we are a top team, and we are going to continue being a top team.
Yeah, I think every season there's that slight progression, and it's like a little bit better, and then a little bit better, and then a little bit. So that's why I'm saying like it's inevitable that eventually we will get first. Obviously, every other team's gunning for first too. Everybody wants to win. So I think it's just a matter of time for us, as long as we keep doing what we're doing, because obviously whatever we're doing is working. Because we keep showing progress, then I think, you know, we're definitely set up to succeed.
Yeah, in the beginning of the interview, you guys said that you guys were screaming, and so like, do you guys already have like a sort of roster all set? Because some time ago, you guys let go of Ariana Christ and can't remember the other name, but have you guys have already a roster set for 2022?
Nothing is completely set in stone right now, but we do have a good idea of like the players that we are expecting and our expectations going forward. So nothing is like 100%, but we're pretty excited to like show off, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the announcement.
just kind of late.
Yeah. To add on top of that, you guys already mentioned that we're seeing more teams or more orgs signing independent teams. I mean, some time ago we saw Team Liquid enter into the Brazilian region, what with their signing of can't remember the name of the women team. They're from their own old name, but Team Liquid signed them, and so like there's a sort of gradual interest in female in women's Valorant, um, compared to when it first started out some time ago. And so like how does that compare to when you guys were competing in CS:GO? Like how at this point in time, with respect to the female scene, like has Valorant already surpassed the CS:GO female CS:GO scene?
Yeah. Yeah, I think me and Kathy definitely agree that Valorant has done way more for the women's scene than unfortunately Counter-Strike ever did. Granted, they did like kind of pave the way, and obviously if it wasn't for tournaments in Counter-Strike and them kind of showcasing, you know, women's teams, then I don't think Valorant would be where it's at right now. So it's definitely like you have to show respect for the tournament organizers that did something for the women's scene in Counter-Strike. But Valorant is definitely taking it a step further and doing so much more, and making sure that it's inclusive um, and all that good stuff. So
Yeah, I agree. I feel like in Counter-Strike, I know they just released their own circuit recently with
Yeah.
ESL, which I think will promote more. But I think it also at the same time it's a little too kind of like late because a lot of people already left the scene. I know they're trying to bring people back, and hopefully it does encourage more players to come back to Counter-Strike. But for Valorant, right off the bat, Riot immediately put their intention into like the women's esports scene, and they immediately created a space for us. And I think that's what the main difference is between Counter-Strike and Valorant is that they released the game, they introduced a competitive scene, and they also made it very inclusive for women, and they made sure not to leave us out, and they have continuously kept up with it, which I think is why it encourages so many women gamers to come out and play and feel more comfortable playing. And I think Valorant does like a really great job with that.
Although the esports scene is entering or is completing its first year with respect to the women's scene, um, do either of you think that we're like in a new age of female Valorant, where we're not just seeing former players of other titles making way to the scene, or do you think we're still like in this like we're still like in the first era of just like players making their way into the game from other titles?
I definitely think that there's a way bigger pool of women in the scene than there were in Counter-Strike. Because, I don't think like I'm an OG veteran, like, I'm not like Ali or like Sapphire, but I definitely think that I came from a time where there were not a lot of girls that played, and seeing it now and seeing just like sometimes my team will talk about like other players, like other female teams, and like, oh, they picked up blah blah. I'm like, who's that? I don't. Did they play Counter Strike? Like that's my first question is, did they play Counter Strike? Because maybe I'll know them, but a lot of them no. They come from several different titles. For a lot of girls, it's their first FPS game ever, which is like so crazy to me. And it's not, I'm not trying to downplay it. I think that's awesome. Like I think it makes me super excited to see that. Because when I first started playing, I played because my brothers played. So I played with my brothers and their friends who were all guys. And, I went to local lands in SoCal and there were a bunch of dudes there. Like, I never had anybody to like bond with or any like icon to look up to. And then, now it's just like there are so many girls that play, and it's fun to have a community of people who I can relate to. So that's always exciting for me.
I definitely think we are going into like a new age because like Valorant is so big to the point where it's like Lynnie said, there's so many different players from so many different games. Like they come from everywhere, like former Fortnite players, League of Legends players, like Dota, like everything. Like they just come from everywhere, and seeing new names pop up in the scene and seeing them prove themselves to be insane players, and you're like, oh my gosh, who is that? Like, is amazing to me. And I love that more women are getting into gaming, and I love that Valorant has helped creating the space for all of them. So I definitely do think we are going into like a new age because all these girls are like popping out from nowhere. Like, hey, I can play this game and I'm good at it. And it's amazing to see that.
Yeah, it's like, go off, queen.
Like, oh yeah, more queens for the community. I love that for us.
Like if Sapphire, if you call Sapphire the OG like of a female CS:GO, like how would you describe yourself, ArtstaR?
I like to think because of women like Sapphire and Ali from Complexity and Bonita from CLG, Miss Harvey, you know, all of those women obviously have been doing it longer than me. So I think they're like OG, and I'm just OG, you know? I definitely think that like my team, what I did with Dignitas, well, obviously will always hold a special place in my heart, because, you know, we tried to do a lot for the female scene back in Counter-Strike, and our main goal was to push women in gaming to be more than just the best female team and try to just be the best team, the best version of yourself possible. So I hope to bring that mindset in Valorant also, with my team, but also to try and inspire other women to have that same view that yes, being the best female team is definitely a title that we want, but I want so much more than that for my team. I want us to be able to compete against tier 1 pros. I want us to be able to be a team that can make history in esports. And it's definitely a long road ahead of us. But I definitely think that with resources and backing from orgs like XSET, and support from the community, I think that's the biggest thing, is having, you know, other pro players in you know, the men's scene, the tier 1 pros, like having their support and their backing is definitely something that helps us too. So I love seeing that when other pros like support us, you know. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but like our XSET team, you know, we spend time with them in Discord, and you know, we talk about the game together, and we bond with I hate saying male team, but the main roster, you know, we bond with them and we spend time with them, and I think other orgs should take note of that. I think, you know, I'm not sure what it's like with another org, but you know, does C9 White and C9 Blue ever like spend time together and like talk to each other about the game and learn from each other? You know, do other orgs do that? So I think like we definitely have something really special with XSET.
Anything to add to that, Starriebun?
I mean, like I mentioned before, I was a big ArtstaR fan, and all the people that she mentioned, like Sapphire, Benita, Miss Harvey, Ali, like I had looked up to them back when I first started playing Counter-Strike, and they're the reason why I wanted to compete in Counter-Strike, and then I moved to Valorant and I wanted to compete. So having them as my role models, like, definitely pushed me to try become like the best like player out there. And I hope that we can also set that example for other future women Valorant players to get into the game and be like, oh, I want to be like XSET, like I want to be like a top team. And I hope that we can inspire others to also compete and like pave the way, you know, because Valorant's still kind of new. So
with the new GCT, or GCT, what am I saying? The new VCT, the new VCT GC circuit and its schedule, we're also going to see an international LAN with the best teams of each region facing off in a separate environment. And so, taking into account North America's place in the international game, like where do you see North America? Do you see it as like the best region in the game?
I spend a lot of time kind of watching the other Game Changers events all around the world. And I mean, their playstyles are very, very different from ours. And I want to say NA is number one, only because, you know, we're North America. But I mean, we're only going to see at the international LAN who is the real champions. But I mean, as far as it goes, NA number one.
I definitely do think North America has powerhouse teams. I think, you know, it's great to see teams from all the other regions and everything, but I think Europe and you know, just every region, I think they'll be surprised with the teams that we have here in North America. Obviously, we got rivalries with some of them, and we want to beat some of these teams. But I also have a lot of respect for what they do, and I think we have some really strong here, some strong teams here in NA.
Which leads me to my next question, like for 2022, like which team would you are you most like excited of facing?
In NA, of course, C9 White. Just considering that we like almost took that Haven map off of them, and we were really close to just like beating them. But if it was internationally, I would love to go against like G2. I think they're like a really, really good team, and I would love to see what our team could do against them. I love seeing their gameplay and watching their different play styles. So those would be the two teams that I'm very excited to go against this year.
Yeah, mine would probably be for North America, probably TSM, because we recently played a best of 5 after playing like a 12-hour day, a 12-hour like match or 12-hour tournament day, and unfortunately the finals was like a best of 5, and we were just so exhausted. I don't want to blame anything on that, but it was definitely like really hard to like stay focused, and so I want a rematch on that. But yeah, for me, it would definitely be G2 also, just because obviously history with those girls playing Counter-Strike. We're always like going back and forth in CS and trying to beat them at LANs and stuff. So I think playing them in Valorant would be fun because it's like a whole new game for both of us. So
taking the direction back into NA, do you have like an independent team that fans should look out for? Like as in Polaris during qualifying for GC3?
I think you named them. Definitely
Yeah.
Polaris. I think they're an insane up-and-coming team. They have really talented players, and I'm surprised that no one has even picked them up yet, because they've proven themselves against signed teams already, again and time and again. Every tournament, they always upset a signed team, and I feel like a lot of people still sleep on them. They're all very talented.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Anyone else besides Polaris?
I think Solaire has potential. Obviously, my girl Sheila on the team, you know, I think they definitely have potential. I think they're still trying to figure some things out on that team. But if it's not Polaris, then it's, you know, Solaire is definitely a team that's working really hard right now.
I agree.
All right, we'll take a firm look on those teams in the future. Taking the focus back over to you guys with your careers and how it has transpired from CSGO to Valorant. Where do you see yourselves like in 5 years down the line?
Hopefully #1 in NA and beating signed pro teams, like even the like men's teams, like seeing us at the top. Like I hope in 5 years I have like 5 trophies in my name and I'm ready to retire, so to let the youngins take my place. Like in 5 years I hope our team accomplishes so much, and I hope we're just like a winning team.
Yeah, I'm getting old, but I think I'll still be playing in 5 years. I always said that I'll probably still play even when I decide to have a family. I'll probably be playing pregnant. I don't know. I can't give up competing. It's something that I love. But if I'm not a player, I'll definitely be a coach somewhere. That's something that I think is definitely in my future, at least, just because I love that whole aspect of the game too. But yeah, I'm hoping we're still playing in 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years will go by fast. I think we'll blink our eyes and it'll still be, you know, we'll still be a team. There's no way. Kathy, I would never leave you.
I'll never let you leave me.
Yeah, man, time is just so scary and with how fast it goes, but yeah, like I wish you guys the best in trying to get those 5 trophies for Starriebun.
Minimum 5 trophies.
Minimum
I'm expecting
of 5.
more. Minimum.
Okay. Minimum of 5. All right. Same sort of question, but with a different direction. Where do you see the game? Like, where do you see Valorant? 5 years down the line.
I feel like Valorant will end up like League of Legends, just like one of the top esports scenes out there, like continuously growing, like one of the most played games out there. Like Riot did such a great job with League of Legends. League of Legends has been out for literally forever, and it's only still #1 game out there. And I feel like Valorant's gonna follow in its footsteps. In the 5 years, I think it's only gonna get bigger.
Yeah, I think Riot definitely understands the esports world very well. There's no other game developer I'd rather have like taking
Yeah.
control of the game that I'm playing than Riot.
Right, with all of those questions and answers said, we'll take a massive interest and focus on XSET Female for 2022. And so, ArtstaR, Starriebun, thank you so much for taking the time in doing this interview. We might have passed around 1 hour, but it was it was very entertaining and very informative. And so, thank you so much. Do you have any final shout outs to give? Any like acknowledgements to anyone?
Shout out to Ducky, our coach. Ducky does so much for this team. I think a lot of his hard work is underlooked. But you know, he's definitely a big part of our growth and how far we've come as a team. So thank you, Ducky, for putting up with me.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the coaches don't get enough recognition for the amount of work they do, especially our coach Ducky. So shout out to him, and also make sure to follow XSET on Twitter and us on Twitter to keep up with our journey and see if I get my minimum 5 trophies in the next 5 years.
Well, you guys already made the outro for me, but nevertheless, that has been ArtstaR of XSET Female. That has been Starriebun of XSET Female as well. I've been Pedro Romero, and with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.